God Help Us versus Self-Help, 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year A. Today's Gospel passage for today's Mass contains a miraculous event. Jesus walking on the water, followed by Peter walking on the water towards Jesus. Often, when people focus on Peter's miraculous aspect of today's Gospel passage, what is emphasized is Peter's walking on the water, and then even what's more emphasized is Peter sinking in the water and his little faith, lack of faith. Is Peter's walking on the water and Peter's little faith, lack of faith, what is most important in the gospel passage? The answer, my founder, Father Menard, argued is no, because what's most important is the presence of Jesus in the gospel passage, so Jesus is the most important reality for us. Therefore, what is most important in the passage is Peter walking towards Jesus. Not so much Peter walking on water or Peter sinking, but Peter walking towards Jesus. And then secondarily, the other aspects are important as well. But walking toward Jesus is the most essential aspect in the miracle. And what is even more important is Peter, once he's by Jesus, Jesus reaching out to Peter, grabbing Peter and saving him, and saying to Peter, "Oh, you little faith, why did you doubt?" If Peter had little faith, and he did, as Jesus said, then what is my faith like? What is our faith like? Would you be willing to get out of the safety of a boat and walk toward someone, walk toward Jesus? How long would I survive on the surface of the water? Would I even risk stepping outside of the boat, at safety of the boat? If we think about the apostles who remained in the boat, perhaps they were there, and when they were watching Peter walk towards Jesus, they may have been in awe, but as soon as they saw Peter sinking, they may start criticizing very quickly to themselves, or maybe among themselves. And when they heard Jesus say, "Oh, you little faith," they may have interpreted those words in a very critical manner, to condemn Peter, rather than to see it as actually a way to praise Peter, to acknowledge the faith that Peter had that allowed him to get out of the boat in the first place while they stayed in the boat. After all, in today's reading, the Saturday's reading for the Mass, Jesus praises a little bit of faith. He says, "If you have the faith of the size of a tiny mustard seed, you can say to that tree, 'Be uprooted and replanted in the sea,' and it will obey you." With the little faith, the size of a tiny mustard seed, Peter could walk on water. If we have the little faith that Peter had and risk getting out of our comfort zone and walking towards Jesus, we also will be able to walk on water if Jesus wants that. We may sink like Peter, but Jesus will reach out and grab us and save us as long as we're walking toward Jesus and not away from him. Another aspect in the story today that my founder, Father Menard, points out is how Peter responded after he started sinking into the water. When Peter started sinking in the water, Peter didn't flail around trying to save himself. Rather, he looked toward Jesus and immediately cried out, "Lord, save me." Now think who Peter is. Peter was a fisherman, very likely very good at swimming. And yet he doesn't try to save himself. His immediate response is to look toward Jesus and say, "Save me, Lord." When I feel like I'm sinking into the waters of this life, how do I respond? How do you respond? Do I try to save myself by flailing around, or do I look immediately toward Jesus and say, "Oh Lord, save me," as St. Peter did? May we approach life more centered on God, more centered on Jesus, and less on self. And when I experience difficulties in life, when I experience an experience of sinking into the waters of this life, may my approach be more like St. Peter's, to be more and more God-centered, a God-help approach, and less of a self-help me approach. St. Peter, help us to center our lives more and more on Jesus. God bless.